Yo, what's poppin' YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Zach Lesage here. Today we'll be covering over the best decks in the format, our new Twilight Masquerade format in the month of June 2024. There's a lot of great decks in this video, including some ones that we have not covered on this channel before. That being said, we will have all the lists for these decks in the pinned comments, and of course, you can pick up any of these cards from our sponsors, Kayfabe Cards, PTCGL Store, and check out all of our links for our other sponsor info. That being said, put your best guesses in the comments, and let's jump into number 10. Kicking things off at number 10, we have Lost Zone Tina. Now, Lost Zone Tina is kind of like, it exists, and it has some decent matchups. However, there's a lot of matchups that it's not like great against. It kind of falls in that Lost Zone, middle of the road approach, where you're okay against a decent few things, but there's some matchups where it's like a little iffy on both sides, a little bit of a middle of the road deck. Still just going with Tina VSTAR, trying to Star Requiem or Lost Impact. We got Max Bell to do some extra damage now, and we've cut the Iron Leaves for a Blood Moon Ursaluna EX. So Blood Moon Ursaluna EX giving some more options against an overall match spread. However, if you are expecting Charizard in your local area or at NAIC, Iron Leaves might be a little bit better. Nothing else really new here from Twilight Masquerade other than the Blood Moon Ursaluna, so the deck is gonna relatively play the exact same as it always has been. It's a fan favorite for many, seen a lot of success at regionals across the board, so maybe this is the deck that breaks out at NAIC and really shows what its true matchup spread is. Coming in hot at number 9 is a returning favorite, Miraidon EX. Now, one of the reasons why this deck is returning is because it did very well at a Japanese Champions League, but it hasn't necessarily seen that much success in online tournaments elsewhere in the globe. It has a decent matchup against the field, and it does pretty well against Lugia, but we've lost Flaffy from this deck, so we don't really have great ways to accelerate energies. Is that enough to keep Miraidon in the running? There are a handful of lightning-type decks that we could have put on here, including Turbo Iron Hands, Turbo Iron Thorns, Quad Iron Thorns. I'm sure I could list off a few others, but right now we went with Miraidon because that's the deck that's seeing the most success. We have the Japanese National Championships coming up this weekend, so maybe we'll see Miraidon have its day at the top of the tables again. In terms of new cards that we've added into this deck, really the only new add that we've added is Tatsugiri. And Tatsugiri is just an extra consistency boost in case we need a supporter in the mid to late game. I think this is going to be one of the higher played decks at NAIC, even though it's placed at number 9. Just because it's a very popular deck, you could pick up the League Battle deck, maybe get a few prize pack cards from your local league, and put it together. Miraidon seems like a safe bet for many who are trying to get top 1,024 points at NAIC, so we might see a decent bit. What do we have going on at number 8? Your guess is as good as mine. Just kidding, I know exactly what number 8 is, but we will find it out very soon. Splashing its way into number 8 is the new Terra-type Greninja EX. Now, this is a deck that I wasn't necessarily expecting to see as much success as it's seeing, and I mean, it is at number 8. There's about 20 or so viable decks, maybe 25 viable decks in this format that fall between tier 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is definitely like a tier 2-ish deck. Can see success in the right metagame. We saw last year Cyrus, our fellow TSS member, won NAIC with Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX, a similar deck to what we have going on here. We got Frostlass that can spread damage counters, so this is an entirely new archetype that we didn't have previous formats. It's also really funny because it's one of those decks, you might not be able to see, but I wrote, I need some Froakies from Obsidian Flames and some Snoruns from Silver Tempest. Unfortunately for me, I do not have Kayfabe cards in my backyard. So feel free to order any of those cards like those that you need. But I am going to go to my local game store that has a deep collection of bulk. And I'm gonna sift through some of the Obsidian Flames and Silver Tempest bulk and get the Snorlax and the Froakies. The other ones work as well. Our strategy is really just being more of a spread deck. And we're kind of built like a Pidgeot deck. Except we can use Greninja's first attack to kind of get cards that we need. Good use of Hyper Aroma as well. So an interesting build across the board. We'll have to see how Greninja does, but it's decks like these that the players who are putting a lot of effort into them can really go far. We've only gone through a handful of decks, but right now we are at another Lost Zone Box deck, and it is just normal Lost Zone Box. Lost Zone Box has cut a little bit of the fat when it comes to this deck, cutting Hoopa and cutting Roaring Moon EX. Those are cards that I don't know if we need right now, and really replacing them with Blood Moon Ursaluna EX. So similar to our Lost Zone Tina, everything is exactly the same except we have the Blood Moon Ursaluna, and this kind of takes a turbo spin to the deck, having an extra Lost Vacuum. Now, you could add the other Dark Attackers and really see how this deck plays out, but right now, I'm not sure if you entirely need them, because we have very quick attackers that can knock out a Dreepy like Cramorant. Blood Moon Ursaluna can knock out anything. We don't really have a huge need of Hoopa, considering if you're facing against a deck that's something that's weak to fighting, like a Miraidon and Iron Hands, Blood Moon Ursaluna can really take those out. And if they have a Bravery Charm, of course you could use Lost Vacuum. Got some more lightning type Pokemon here than usual because Lugia is seeing quite a bit of success in this format with some of the new additions that deck has. Is Lost Zone Box deck going to be one of the front runners of our format or a relic of the past? Honestly, it seems like it's going to be somewhere in between. Lost Zone Box hasn't necessarily been at the absolute top of the game, but it has been known to creep out a few top 8s, top 16s, top 32s, so it would not be surprising to see a deep run from a dedicated Lost Zone Box player at NAIC. Blocking the way at number 6 is going to be Block Snorlax Control. Now, Snorlax actually grabbed a decent bit of new cards, well, I guess really one new card in particular, and that's going to be Accompanying Flute. This is actually a big boost to the archetype, because Accompanying Flute allows you to look at the top cards of your opponent's deck and rip basic Pokemon that you see there onto your opponent's bench. Now, when we look at previous iterations of this deck, you'd use Mantine to get cards from your opponent's discard pile and put them onto their bench, or you'd use cards such as Erica's Invitation to get it from their hands. Accompanying Flute is a trainer card, giving us opportunities to use that item card over and over and over again. Not like per accompanying Flute, not the same as Flute, but we could just rip, get lucky, bring that Pokemon up, have a win con. So I think that Snorlax is one of those decks where not a lot of people are going to play it. We saw a decent bit of control decks at the Los Angeles Regionals, but with all the new decks like Raging Bolt Ogerpon, Dragapult, we might not necessarily see people picking up an old favorite like Snorlax, or not even an old favorite, an old existing deck, I should say. So we'll see how this deck continues to play out in our format, but right now, Snorlax look like it's in a prime position to have a deep run at NAIC, so if you're a fan of Control, Accompanying Flute just might be a card that you add into your deck. Jumping into the middle of the pack, and an old returning favorite is Charizard EX, what was previously one of the best decks in our formats, right beside chien-pao, which I'm just going to tell you right now, chien-pao's not on this list, because cards like Dragapult, Eat It Alive, there's a lot of really tough matchups out there, and you can't really run the 70 HP Frigibacks only, causing you to have a really tough matchup against one of the bigger decks in formats. That being said, Charizard's able to adapt because it has a lot of 70 HP Pokemon, such as Charmanders, and they also only have one retreat cost. We've also switched to the 60 HP Pidgeys for similar Dragapult purposes, and similar to Adam Calamat's list, you could look at other options like Bidoof. There's a 70 HP Bidoof if you want to try to survive those early Dragapult hits with Phantom Dive. Not really too much new stuff going on here. We got Kieran. It's one of the new supporters, giving us an additional switch out and giving us an opportunity to increase our damage output to our opponent's Pokemon. That could take Charizard to new heights, especially when you pair that with Choice Belt or Maximum Belt against the right Pokemon. There's a lot of really cool things when it comes to Charizard. It might not necessarily be as well positioned as we want it to be, but it is a really powerful deck, and if it's the deck that you want to play, I could really see this deck making a decent top 10-24 run at the very least, or you can go as far as winning the tournament because it's still Charizard. We'll have to see, but that's our halfway point. Are your guesses going well? Let me know in the comments below, and if you haven't already, like this video and subscribe to the Shuffle Squad. Second, bracing its way all the way to number 4 is Gardevoir EX. Someone tell Josh Frink. It's one of those things where Gardevoir has been quite a good deck for a minute, because we have a lot of single prize card attackers in a field where there's a lot of 2 prize card attackers. We can knock out various Pokemon, and as long as we avoid ways that our opponent could draw multiple prize cards, we should be okay. The big new adds to this deck are going to be Monkey Dory, giving us opportunities to move some of Gardevoir's Psychic Embrace damage to our opponent's Pokemon in any way we like. We could also just slap on the Dark Energy there, do it once per turn, If you had a Dark Energy on it previously, you could use it, then use Professor's Turos, then use it again with another Dark Energy attached to do 6 damage counters wherever you like, as long as you have enough damage. You can invent pretty much infinite damage with Gardevoir, so Munkidori really blends in there nicely. Cresselia is a nice addition due to Dragapult being in the format. And of course, we've added Unfair Stamp to make things unfair for our opponent, giving us an extra disruptive edge against the field. We could see Hyper Aroma being the play in this deck to make it a little bit more consistent to grab out those Curlios, but right now, Unfair Stamp seems incredible in this powerful Gardevoir deck. This is really the type of deck that I think could win NAIC because it's technical, there's a lot of really cool plays you can make with it, and it's generally consistent. So give it a try if you're looking for something new or returning old favorites. I think Gardevoir might just be the one. Sneaking its way into number 3 is going to be Dragapult EX. And we've actually gone with the Pidgeot EX version of this deck because that one's proven itself globally as the better build of the deck. Now, there are a handful of builds when it comes down to it, such as Dragapult Xatu, Dragapult's Charizard, and Dragapult Lost Zone Box, maybe even a Regidrago deck that copies Dragapult, but this is the one that's performing the best out of all of them. We can spread damage counters around with Phantom Dive, we can use Hawlucha to place extra damage to knock out some of those 70 HP Mons, and we can use Mela and Neo Upper Energy to have that energy acceleration that we just didn't have before, that you're forced to be playing Xatu in order to make it happen. I think that this build is amazing. I could see a Nest Ball being cut for a Turo. I could see an Earthen Vessel being cut for a copy of Choice Belt. There's a lot of little things that you could do to make this deck personal and really adjust it to the metagame. And that's what I think makes it incredibly powerful. With an engine as diverse and consistent as Pidgeot's, you could literally make your deck whatever you want it to be. Add in that Roxanne, add in that Turo, add in that next one of that makes you really happy. As long as you think it has a purpose and it's good into the metagame that you're expecting, it's probably an okay choice. And you have a little bit of wiggle room when it comes to the Nest Ball, the Earthen Vessel, maybe even a Dracoloak count. So you can always do a little bit of tinkering when it comes to this deck. Cook hard, but we'll have to see what our top 2 decks are in the format. I'm sure y'all have a hunch, but let's jump into our number 2 pick. Flying high at number 2 is Lugia VSTAR. Now, Lugia VSTAR is a deck that I hold near and dear to my heart. It allowed me to cash out in Orlando, and it got a bunch of new cards from this set. Legacy Energy allows us to add back in some old returning favorites such as Iron Hands EX, and of course the new cards such as Wellspring Ogerpon EX. We have opportunities to snipe our opponent's bench, draw extra prize cards, and we have that powerful Blood Moon Ursaluna EX, making its 3rd appearance on this list. We've changed our Minchinos from the 60 HP to 70 HP just because of Dragapults, and we've added in Carmine, a supporter that we could play on the first turn of the game because of its special ruling. Legacy Energy also reduces the amount of prize cards your opponent takes by 1 the first time you use it during a game, which gives us a lot of opportunities to really put the tempo of the game back into our favor. Lugia looks to be one of the most played decks at NAIC, and arguably it might see some of the most success. Lugia dominated the format for an entire year, and now it's back, and it's almost as good as ever. I don't know if we'll ever get back to the powerful colorless, Aurora Energy days, and Quick Ball days of Lugia, but here we have it, one of the absolute best ways to play the deck, and one of the absolute best decks for NAIC. Is it enough to trump the number 1 deck that's performing online? Do you know which deck it is? I know that our video editor Dom might have a smile on his face because it is Raging Bolt EX with Teal Mask Ogerpon is our number 1 pick of the list. This deck is incredibly fierce, and this is my most updated version of the deck. The one change that I might make is cutting an energy switch for a Sandy Shocks, but that's only so that you can have a single prize card Pokemon that can attack into a Charmander, Dreepy, or Ralts first. It also gives you another out beyond your Mew EX to a Mimikyu. Mimikyu can stop any of your Pokemon doing damage, but Mew can copy the damage counters and place them back onto the Mimikyu. This deck slaps on a bunch of energies with Teal Mask Ogerpon. It accelerates energies with Professor Sada's Vitality, and of course, we could just manually attach for our turn as well. If you want a deck that goes fast and knocks out some of the other best decks in format, such as Lugia and Dragapult, really one of the best decks that you can play going in at NAIC. This deck might get countered by some single prize card Pokemon, but when this deck works, it feels incredibly fun. Is it the best deck in format? We'll have to find out at NAIC, because this is really a deck that wasn't seeing success in Japan and has kind of gone up a lot since seeing success globally outside of Japan once Twilight Masquerade was released on PTCG Live. There's a lot of cool things that we could do with this deck, but we'll have to find out. We're still one more top 10 best decks video before NAIC, but let me close things out. And that's what we have going on for our video today. We have 10 excellent decks. NAIC is right around the corner, and of course, we have the first opportunity to play these cards in real life outside of Asia. I'm really excited. I'm going to be playing at NAIC. I got a bunch of cards that I've been preparing for, a bunch of decks. I mean, I have 2 full Omni Hives completed with decks here, all ready to go. So there's a lot of great options. Hopefully one of those decks is me winning NAIC, or I'll do the best I possibly can. If you're going to be there, be sure to come up and say hi and greet yourself to the rest of the squad. And I really appreciate everyone who's been tuning into the channel lately. I know Twilight Masquerade is an exciting time for everyone. If you need any help with the format, consider picking up some coaching from me at Metafy for some one-on-one coaching. I also run group classes there regularly, and I usually post them in our YouTube community tab. I also just follow me on social media. Let's get to know each other. I really appreciate everyone. I'll catch up with all y'all later. Peace out and have a great one. Want to support the Shuffle Squad? Be sure to check out all of our sponsors in the description to pick up Pokemon TCG singles, sealed, and PTCG live codes. You made it to the end. Thank you so much for watching this entire video from the Shuffle Squad. Honestly, from the bottom of our hearts, we appreciate each and every person that supports our content, watches what we have going on every single day, every single week, even from time to time, and continuously allows us to have a forum to project our creative content towards the Pokemon TCG community. So if you haven't already, be sure to give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and even leave a comment to help boost the YouTube algorithm. That being said, we'll catch you with our next video. Thanks again. Take it easy.